How's it going, Dave in Comic Book Investments? So in this video, we're going to look at some keys that have massively dropped in price. And I'm talking big keys, not just puny little keys. You know, huge keys, Hulk-sized keys. Actually, Hulk is on here. Yes, first appearance of Hulk, stuff like that. So these have dropped in price. Now, in my last video, I went through basically some highlights of the Heritage auction. They always have like these big quarterly auctions. And so that's what I'm going to do with this one. Before, those are ones that went up in price or heating up. These are ones that have been going down in price. So let's see how much they've gone down by. And yeah, so first one on the list, big key, Batman #1 in a 3.5. It sold for $228,000. The previous sale was also its all-time high record, which back in 2022, and it sold for $264,000. That is down 14%. So it went down 14% from the previous record, which isn't really that much. So generally speaking, like most, if you watch these videos, you've seen stuff dropping by like at least 50%, all the way up to like 90%. But, you know, obviously a big key like this, you would expect more of a drop because it's such a huge number, but actually it didn't really drop that much. So that's showing that like golden age, like top end keys are still holding pretty strong. Now 14%, these are both auctions. It all depends on who's really bidding at the time. So 14% is really not that much, to be honest. But overall, you can see that it's been trending straight up. Next, we got Amazing Fantasy 15, first appearance of Spider-Man. Now, this was a 6.0. It sold for $75,000. The previous one also sold on Heritage back in May for $78,000. That is down only 4%. But its all-time record was back in 2021, selling for $96,000. That is down 22%. So from the one that previously sold, 5 or so months previous, sold is only down 4%. So not that big deal. $78,000 to $75,000, basically about the same. But from its record, it was $96,000 at its all-time high for a 6.0. $96,000 is down 22% from its all-time high. Now, if you look at the graph, you can kind of see it goes up like this and then spikes up again. So in 2022, it also jumped up and had about, close to an all-time high, but not an all-time high. So I'm not really worried about this book, first appearance of Spider-Man. Will we see 96,000 again? Of course we will. And it probably won't be too long, I would say, in the next 5 years. All right, next we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, first printing. A 9.8 is down 23%. It sold on Heritage for $120,000. The previous sale was back in 2022 for a 9.8 for $156,000, but its all-time record is $245,000 in 2021, and that is down 51% from its all-time high. So quite a big drop. All-time high, almost $250,000, almost $250,000, dropping all the way down to $120,000. Same grade, both 9.8s. Now there is obviously multiple 9.8s of this book, but yeah, that's quite a bit. 51%. It just happened to be the right things at the right time to get that $250,000 jump. But if you're looking at from a year ago, it's down 23%. So still not that great either for this book. This book, in my mind, will always be a six-figure book. So always be above $100,000 in a 9.8. That is my opinion. So I honestly don't think that you're going to see this book drop too much more. Next, we got Incredible Hulk #1 in a 7.5. One recently sold in Heritage for $84,000. The previous one was about a year ago, and it sold for $91,000, so down 8% from there. But its all-time record was back in 2021, and it sold for $108,000, so it's down 22% from its all-time high record. But $8,000 in a year, once again, that variance, they're both auctions, so they can kind of go any price. But yes, it is trending down. And then from its all-time high, it is down 22%. But there was a time when it went down and ticked back up again from sale. This is a 7.5. So not the kind of dropping that we're seeing in other, comic books that have been on the show, but still a 22% drop in the last 2 years still isn't that great. All right, next we got Ultimate Fallout 4. This is the variant in a 9.8. The one recently sold for a little over $20,000. Previously, back in May, it sold for a little over 27,000. It's down 26%, but its all-time record was actually earlier this year in January for 43,000. That is down 53%. So down 53% within 90 in a whole year. It pretty much, it started climbing up, and then it just happened to hit that all-time record at 43,000 beginning of the year, probably because Edge of the Spider-Verse 2 is coming out. There's a lot of hype with Miles Morales, but it has since dropped down to 20,000, which we haven't seen numbers like that until basically 2020. And yeah, wow, quite a bit. Now, I've made videos on Ultimate Fallout 4 before, and this is just, it's a more common book than you think. Now, I don't want to explain these videos all over again to make this Ultimate Fallout 4 video, but there's a lot of people I've seen with just runs of the exact same book, Ultimate Fallout 4, variant and non-variant, multiple copies, all ungraded. Will they be 9/8? I have no idea, but there's a lot out there that are still ungraded. But yeah, so I thought 50 grand for a 9/8 was a bit much when I saw that, but 20,000, yeah, dropping by 53% within less than a year. I could easily see this dropping more. Next we got as Captain America number 117, first appearance of Falcon in a 9/8. One recently sold in Heritage for 33,600, and the previous sale was back in 2022, and it was the record sale for 78,000. It's down 57%. So these don't sell often at all. If you look at that graph, it's basically one sold now, then one sold in 2022, and the one before that was like 2013. So this book does not sell in a 9/8 often at all. But down 57% from its all-time high, 78,000. That's quite a bit for a 9/8 of this book. First Falcon, obviously, he's going to be Captain America, things like that. But I think the whole MCU is kind of waning on popularity, at least for now. It's really hard to say with this book, to be honest. If this popped up in 6 months from now in a 9/8, I couldn't tell you what this book would go for, because it just doesn't show up that often. There's not enough sales on it. Will we see 78,000 again? I don't know. It's literally, other than these two sales, it's been like 10 years. So it's like, I don't know where this book will be at. I can tell you it was never really that popular before, prior, obviously, to Falcon being in the movies and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know what to say on this one. My gut feeling is it's not going to hit 78,000. I would say it's more likely for this book, if this, in the next 6 months to a year, if this popped up, it's more likely that this book will sell for around 25,000 than it will sell for 45,000. I'll put it that way. So if it shows up in the next year, again, I'd say my money is on it. It'll be around the 25,000, more likely than the 45,000. I'm not saying it's going to be either or. Could just sell for like 30 or 35, but that's my guess. All right, last one is Fantastic Four, number 52, first appearance, Black Panther. A 9/6 recently sold for 30,000. Previous one of that was 2022, sold for 36,000. That's down 17% from the previous sale. But the all-time record is actually 50,400 in 2021, and it's down 40% from its all-time record. Obviously, Black Panther has been waning. Chadwick Boseman no longer with us, and who knows what's happened to Black Panther in general. But I would say 30,000 for a 9/6 is probably going to be, in my opinion, around where it's going to be. So I would expect it to sell for anywhere from 25 to 35 for the next while, and sit around those numbers. But 50,000, it's going to be a while till we see that again, and it's going to take a lot more going on with the character in order to see that. And again, this is not a 9/8, this is a 9/6. So I would say it's safe to say 25 to 35,000 is probably the range it will be for the next several years. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. As you can see, keys are dropping. I know some people were saying on the comments like, oh, Heritage manipulates prices, which is kind of true in some instances, but I showed you some going up and some going down. If they manipulated prices, then they would all be going up, now wouldn't they? But I mean, maybe No, there's a lot of people out there with like a lot of money and they don't really care. Like I know a lot of people out there are basically having a hard time financially, but the people that are spending this time, like the people who are spending 30 grand, 35, 50, 200,000 on a book, they're not hurting financially. They're not like, oh my gosh, my gas price has gone up. Oh my gosh. I don't know what I'm doing here. Sweating myself with a little rag. Oh my gosh, groceries have gone up by 35%. Chicken's up, butter's up, bacon is up. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. No, they don't care. That stuff doesn't even bother them. It doesn't do anything to them. They have a ton of money. They don't really care. So those are the people that are on Heritage. That's why Heritage usually, like if it's really expensive or really rare, you're going to get probably the best prices in my opinion, just because Heritage has that clientele. And I mean, they have people that like the richest of the rich are going to Heritage. They're not going anywhere else. They're not hunting eBay. They're not going to deal with eBay. They want to know that when they buy something that's going to show up safe, they don't have to deal with messaging. They don't have to deal with any of that stuff. It's worth it then to save a little bit of money. So they don't care. So they all go to Heritage. That's where all the richest of the rich will go. But again, you're going to have to, if you sell through Heritage, you're going to have to pay a premium to sell through them. You know, like on books like this, not as high as a percentage, but definitely you're paying anywhere probably from 15% all the way up to like 35%, depending on the price and depending on the book that you're selling to them. But yeah, so are they manipulating prices? I'm sure on some stuff they do, and I know that for a fact. But are they manipulating the price on a Fantastic Four 52 in a 9.6? No, they're not wasting their time and on something like that, because you might think 30,000 is a lot, but not to billionaires. So and that's what they pretty much are, close to it. So they're not doing that on a 9.6 Fantastic Four number 52. The only one I could probably see on this list would be the Batman one, but it's a 3.5. So again, that's not. I don't think they're really manipulating that much on that book. That would be the only one on this list. They're not doing an AF-15 6.0. They're not bothering with their time on that stuff. Like it's not worth it to them, the reputation and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I wouldn't. Some stuff obviously they do, like there's that Mario thing that was totally manipulated, but that was to create a market. They were creating video games as a market. There's a whole video on it. I was a guest on it. Had millions of views, but yes, they were creating a market, so they manipulated the market to create that market. Comic books is already a market, so the only way they would manipulate a market if it's beneficial to them. So if they had like an action one, like the highest grade or the highest grade that's sold in a long, long time, they would probably manipulate that to make sure that it hit a certain number so that they could claim record price sale, get on the news. It benefits them like that, gets their name and their brand out there. That's how they manipulate it. They're not manipulating on like a Hulk 181 and an 80. Why? What is the point? It's not even worth their time. They want to sell those things. That's how they make money, is selling the stuff. So they're not, it would only be certain key items at certain key price points that they would try to get it sold. Because, yeah, like I've seen books like a Ghostwriter number 1, it sold for like $650 on our site. It was an 8.5. And then it sold the same week on their site for $480. Now, this is like nothing, like very small. If they're manipulating everything, they would manipulate that book. But no, they don't care. It was like the lowest one sold for in forever. So yeah, it would just really depend on the book. It's a case by case, but they're not doing it. There's no point in them doing a Fantasy 452 and a 9.6. That doesn't, there's no clout there. It doesn't help them. A 9.8, maybe, like if one hasn't sold in a while and they want to make sure it got a certain price to show like, look, 9.8. But even then, I don't know if Black Panther's popping enough character to really move the needle on them. So that is it. Sorry for the rant.